This segment is sponsored by Center for Family Safety and Healing.
Maybe you know a family where abuse is happening, or that family is yours. The good news is help is available, and that's where the Center for Family Safety and Healing at Nationwide Children's comes in to help. So joining us today is Dr. Kristen Crichton to talk more about this subject. Thanks for having us today.
Thanks for being here.
So Dr. Crichton, you also do work with Ohio State, correct?
Yep, I'm a clinical assistant professor at The Ohio State University, and I work with our med students and residents.
Wow, so obviously super knowledgeable about this subject. And my first question is, what is the line that once this line is crossed, it becomes abuse or child neglect?
So the guidance from federal and state law tells us that child abuse happens when a caregiver acts or fails to act in a way that results in physical, emotional harm to a child. And that can include a risk of serious harm. It can include sexual harm, like I said, physical or emotional harm. It also includes neglect. So there's 4 types of maltreatment.
Okay. Physical
abuse, which is intentional or non-accidental injury to a child. Sexual abuse, which is sexual exploitation of a child or exposure to sexual behavior of a child. Neglect, which is, again, failure to meet the needs of the child. That can be supervisory neglect if a parent isn't paying enough attention and a child gets hurt, or medical neglect if a caregiver isn't meeting the medical needs of a child. And then emotional abuse can come when there's patterns of behavior directed towards a child that results in emotional harm or harm to their self-esteem.
So 1, those are so alarming, but number 2, what are the warning signs that these are occurring?
So obviously there's lots of different types of maltreatment, so the warning signs can come in many different forms. With young children, young infants that really can't generate the forces necessary to cause accidental injury to themselves, really any injury in a young infant can be concerning for abuse, even just a single bruise. As kids get older, if they have kind of injuries that don't really match up with the accidental history that they're describing, if they're saying, they kind of fell, but they have a much more significant injury, that may be concerning, or if there's a pattern of multiple injuries. And then we can also see changes in behavior. So kids may act out more, or conversely, they may kind of retract and act withdrawn. They may act out in kind of sexually inappropriate ways or have sexualized behaviors that can be concerning. They may have changes in eating, or changes in sleeping, or changes in their school behavior or school performance, and any of those can be kind of signs that something else is going on.
And it's something any adults, especially parents, don't want to go through. That moment a child comes to you and says they're being abused, what are the do's and don'ts with how you react to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing is to try and stay as calm as possible and try not to react strongly to the child. Also, it's important for the child to feel believed and supported. So just encouraging the child to know that they're in a safe space and you're glad they've said something about it. Let them talk, but don't press, don't ask leading questions. And then kind of, again, just really support the child and know that they're in a safe space. We don't want to panic. We don't want to overreact. We don't want to get mad or yell at the child. And then the most important thing to do is take action. And we can talk about what that action might look like.
And speaking of action, outside of the parental unit, what if you're a witness or a bystander and from a distance you see somebody else going through abuse? What should you do then?
Absolutely. So the most important thing to do is to let Child Protective Services know. In Ohio, Child Protective Services is broken down by county, but you can reach any county using their hotline 1-855-OH-CHILD and call and report. You don't have to know that abuse has happened. You don't have to have proof that abuse has happened. Just a reasonable suspicion that there's a concern for abuse. And the important thing to know is that you may not have every piece of information, but if you're worried, it's important to act on behalf of that child because they may not be able to seek help themselves.
Absolutely. And if people want to find out more about the center specifically, because you guys do incredible work here, how do they go about doing that?
You can find us online at familysafetyandhealing.org or give us a call.
Fantastic. Thank you again for all the work you guys are doing and for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Like she said, if your family is suffering from abuse or you know a family that is, take action. Visit their website for more information or better yet, give them a call today.